So I'm very happy to introduce from Morning Brew, and I'm blanking because stage pressure, Gillian Zamora, Director of Product Management. No applause? Okay. Welcome to the stage, Gillian. I look super forward to this talk.
Thank you. Thanks. Hi, everybody. So I want to start off with a question for you. What is the mission of your content? And I'm not talking about the KPIs and all the amazing measurements that we should be doing on our content. All of that is very important. All of the brand affinity that it needs to create and all of that is very important. But what is your content going to do? Your writers write out the content, and your content like straps on his jetpack and puts on its helmet, and it goes blasting into the atmosphere, and it's like it's Tony Stark's suit, and it's going to go solve some kind of problem, right? At least we hope it is. So I'm asking this because the title of my talk is when the content is the product. And we all know that good products solve human problems, right? It's the same thing for content. Good content is on a mission to solve human problems. And when content is the product, it has to really be there for its audience. It has to be there for them however they need it, whenever they need it, in all different kinds of forms. And the more that we think about things this way, the more that we can think about content as a product, then it allows us to really be innovative and creative. And not just think about, right, that we need to create a new website or we need to create a new newsletter. We need to create content that's going to go be on a mission. So I'm saying this because I've also spent most of my career, I've been almost 2 decades in the media world. The first half as a writer and a reporter, and the second half more on the product side of things. And I've really always been interested in solving problems, no matter what I was doing. And this is me. It's in the 80s, and you can tell because of the side ponytail. When I was little, I don't know if anybody who has kids here, or maybe when you were little, you like wrote your own cards to your parents, like, or drew pictures for them. I was a kid who definitely like wrote my own cards, and I would write these stories about what was happening in our lives, because I grew up in Grafton, Massachusetts. It's sort of a working class area, far away from the glittering buildings in Boston. We lived in an apartment complex with my single mom and my older brother. And we literally were like the kids who lived on the other side of the train tracks, like, you know, that kind of saying about how those are the bad kids. That was literally us. It was like our apartment building, a pavement, train tracks, and then an elementary school. And that was literally what I always felt like. I always felt like we were outsiders. We lived in an apartment building when everyone else had a house. Our parents were divorced, which back then was really kind of rare. I know it's like whose parents aren't divorced now, but at the time, it really felt like we were just the only kids in the school who had divorced parents. And my family was kind of far away. So the same things that I was trying to do with the cards that I would write my mom, which was I wanted to thank her for being who she was and for helping me. But also it's the same thing when I would write stories. I was writing stories, and they weren't about unicorns and hobbits, although I loved that. There were stories about our lives, what was happening, like my brother winning a hockey game or me falling off my bike. And I wrote those stories because my family felt really far away, and I didn't have many friends. But I was doing it because I wanted to create a connection. I wanted the people on the other side of whatever I was writing to understand what was going on in our lives. And it didn't matter what form that took. I wrote these cards, I wrote these books for people. I actually also did a newsletter, like a family newsletter during the holidays, telling these kinds of stories. all of that was on a mission to create a connection with my family who felt far away from me. So this is getting more toward my life as a reporter as we fast forward a little bit. I went to college in Boston, and then I moved to New York City, and I went to NYU. And I got an internship at this newspaper called the New York Observer. It was a weekly newspaper and known among New York City's most elite people. It was like, these were the people, like, they already read the New York Times that morning, they already read the Wall Street Journal, and then they would read the weekly New York Observer to get the real inside information about what was going on in Gracie Mansion behind closed doors, and politicians making deals, and real estate people making boardroom decisions about like the future of the New York City landscape. It was about the conversations that were happening in those rooms, not just the outcomes, right? And it was really described as sort of like the insider's publication. It was for insiders to help to learn more about what was happening around in New York City. And I'm showing here is a picture of Peter Kaplan, who was the editor-in-chief. This is actually a picture from the New York Times, from his obituary. Peter passed away in 2013. And the thing that he taught me about content, the big moment that happened for me is he called me into his office one day, and Peter's just like, he had his favorites, right? We would like bring him into his office and take him out for drinks and stuff. I wasn't that one. I was always in the corner, kind of just like writing and doing my job, and again, feeling like an outsider. Like, why am I here talking to celebrities like Charlize Theron and like reporting on socialites? I'm nowhere near a socialite. But Peter knew that about me. He brought me into his office and it's surrounded by newspapers and books, and he just was like marinating in intellect. And he said, I know you're an outsider. I know you feel like one. I know you feel like you don't fit in. And you don't. He didn't really say it like that. He was from New Jersey. But so think of an accent. I'm not gonna disgrace him by trying to imitate the great Peter Kaplan. But he said, it's why I like you, and it's why you're a good writer. Because good writers who are outsiders can look at the inside and ask questions that nobody else is asking about what's going on in there. They rap on the doors and the windows, and they're saying, hey, what the heck is going on here? Do you see what's happening? And they can explain that to the outsiders. And so ever since I had that conversation with Peter, even though I was always writing, and I was writing about blogs in the New York City tech industry and things like that, I realized that my mission was to help outsiders feel like insiders. And I'll tell you, that's what made the New York Observer just an amazing publication throughout the 80s and 90s. And so this leads me to Morning Brew. Because they're also on a mission. These two guys, way back in 2015, were studying business at the University of Michigan. And Alex Lieberman, the guy with the blue shirt, actually, they're both wearing blue, light blue shirt. He was saying that he was realizing as he was working with other students that people weren't connecting to the Wall Street Journal anymore, right? Like these huge columns of like dense words, and just like business didn't feel fun when you read the Wall Street Journal and you're a business student. So his solution was pretty simple. It was just to put together a newsletter. And that was really on a mission to help young college business students really learn about the business world and have some fun while they're doing it. You know, we can look at some charts and like look at inflation and, have a meme in there. Sounds like fun, right? So that was in 2015, and now 4 million people read that newsletter every day. That is a good product because it is solving that problem For those business students who were like, I literally can't read the Wall Street Journal anymore, it's not speaking my language. They found something that did, and it's Morning Brew. Sign up at morningbrew.com. So this is the Morning Brew mission. And we take it very seriously at Morning Brew because Morning Brew has grown far beyond what our, that first newsletter that we put out. It's very important. It's still core to what we do. But this mission statement is really real about our content, and it's related to what we do and how we create products. Because we care about those decision makers of today and tomorrow. Really, we do. Their payment to us is their time and their engagement and their email addresses and other information we ask for them. And we honor that by always striving to complete this for them, that everything we make is actually going to help them solve a problem and make good decisions. We're never complacent. So when we think about content on a mission, and whenever we're thinking about new things that we're going to launch, we think about what it's actually going to do for a human on the other side of it. This is now the Morning Brew world that started with that one Morning Brew newsletter and that mission. So we decided we didn't want to just help them learn about the business world. We actually created all of these other brands that could help them with other areas of their life, like learn about their personal finance and how to invest. And then we started saying, if our mission is still to help everybody get better at learning about the business world, what about when they're in a specific industry within the business world, like, I don't know, marketing? Some of us are probably in marketing right now. We launched something like Morning Brew. And whenever we do that, whenever we create a new brand, we really treat it as a product and use the same product processes that you would for any other product. Like, we have a mission statement for Marketing Brew, which is to help industry professionals make better decisions every day. And so that when that marketing professional is going into that meeting with their boss and their team, and they need to really just wow them and come up with the best new idea and have a solution to a problem, that we can help them do that. And we have this document that actually our general manager sends out whenever we've decided on the next brand that we're thinking about launching, the next new newsletter. And it has a mission statement. It also has the very specifics about the audience. What are the problems that they're having? What's keeping them up at night? And then we have structure a little bit about what that means, because we have what we call content pillars. But essentially, these are the areas that we're going to cover under this subject. And then we can take it from there. We launch the newsletter, and we iterate on the content. We test it with our audience and ask them, is this helpful for you? What do you think? And if it's not, then we iterate on it. Again, all of that is part of the product process that we're just really bringing into a content world. And all of this kind of creates a loop. And again, I was talking earlier about that creativity, that when you put some structure around some content and you make sure that it's solving an actual problem for people, then it can take so many different forms, right? This is Katie Gotti, who's one of our creators, who has joined the Morning Brew world. And she helps empower women to learn more about personal finance and their taxes and how to invest. Again, that's something that can feel locked away for that audience. And so, sure, she can write a blog that'll be on a website. But that information that she puts on her blog can end up on social media, and that can end up going into the newsletter, and it can be a title of her podcast, The Money with Katie Show. It can actually turn into other products. When the content is good, when the content's the product, then it can turn into so many other things, like commerce, like a sweatshirt that says retired on it, geared toward women in their 30s, because that's when they want to retire, or a financial journal, right? That information that she had in that blog and those Twitter posts can all end up through a course that people can take through a journal. And then we also can create experiences from that content, right? That can become part of a syllabus that we do as part of one of what we're calling Money with Katie's retreats, where women can actually experience the content live with Katie and become more empowered about their personal finance. And we think about this too, like, one thing that I loved about Morning Brew and one of the reasons why I joined is because, again, we're not thinking about content like it just needs to go on a website and be on someone's phone. Content can be live, in person. We started to create courses. We started experimenting with an MBA-style cohort-based learning experience. Because if people are learning through Morning Brew's newsletters, and we still have that mission to help them be better at their roles, why wouldn't we try this? Why wouldn't we make our content be on that mission, just in a different format? And through our user research, we realized that, trying to disrupt the MBA coursework world, very competitive, it wasn't really about, the content wasn't really about just creating, the next statistics course or something like that. It was actually about creating connections. That's what people really got out of their MBA that made it special, was the connections they made with people. So all of our content is about creating that for them. All of our courses, our syllabus, our assignments that we give them is about creating that for them. So I have to say, Sanity has helped us create this world and has opened up this kind of possibility for us. Because we've been able to centralize all of these brands with all of these very similar experiences that we might be building for each one of them, like commerce, like live events. We can build that all within Sanity. And no matter what new platforms or ways that people want to experience Morning Brew, and really, when we're talking about experiencing Morning Brew, what we're saying is they're experiencing a new way of learning. They're experiencing a new way to be empowered. Then it can take any form, and we are ready for it. With the vision that we have, our content is on a mission, and it doesn't matter where or what form it takes. A story written by one of our amazing writers becomes a piece of a newsletter, is quoted in a podcast, is retweeted on Twitter, becomes part of a course syllabus, becomes a discussion topic during an event, and a quote that is put on a mug. And all of that happens by content and adding structure to it and making sure that you really think of your content as a product. What is it really doing? So if there's anything I want you to take away from my chat, is to really go back to your teams and have a conversation. What is the mission of our content? And it actually can't really be to sell shoes, because like we said earlier, nobody really wakes up and goes, I can't wait to engage with that brand today. It's more like, what is this brand doing for me today? What is this content? How is it going to solve my problems? How is it going to make me feel part of a community or help me learn something? And then when you do that, when you create that mission and you start thinking about the ways, the success metrics about what it's actually going to do for the company and lead you through the funnel, and it's going to impact your customers and create brand affinity, then that unlocks the creativity of your whole team. To, again, not just think about it like the content is on the website, but the content is on the mission. So how can each of us help it complete its mission? Thanks.